Hi everyone, in this video our group will be discussing privilege escalation attacks in Windows 10. Privilege escalation is a type of cyber attack where an attacker starts with a lower level account such as a normal user and then finds a weakness in the operating system to gain higher level access such as administrator or system level privileges. Once attackers get admin rights, they can change system settings, install malware, read sensitive data, disable security tools, and sometimes completely take over the computer or network. So even a small vulnerability can become a very big problem. Okay, why is privilege escalation is a serious security threat? This attack is considered very dangerous because of the modern cyber attacks don't start with full access. Instead, attackers first gain basic access through phishing, malware, or a stolen password. Then, they use privilege escalation to climb up the access ladder inside the system. This means the attack becomes harder to detect, more damaging, and longer lasting. In many real-world breaches, privilege escalation is the key step that allows attackers to steal sensitive data or full control of the operating system. Why our group choose Windows 10? Our group choose Windows 10 because it is one of the most widely used operating system in the world, including in companies, universities, and personal computers. Because so many people use it, Windows 10 is a major target for attackers. At the same time, Microsoft includes many built-in security features, so it is interesting to study how privilege escalation works and how Windows 10 tries to defend against it. Objective of this video is to explain how privilege escalation attacks happen in Windows 10 and how the operating system defends itself. Each member in our group will cover a different security aspect: how the attack works, authentication and cryptography, firewall and intrusion detection, access control and privilege separation, and finally a real case study and conclusion. By end of this video, you should clearly understand what privilege escalation is and why it matters and how Windows 10 attempts to protect users from it. Now, let's move on to the next section where we'll see how privilege escalation attacks actually happen inside Windows 10.
Hi, my name is Nur-Irdina Natasha. Now, let's take a closer look on how privilege escalation attack work step by step. This process shows how attacker can move from very limited access to complete control of a system. Firstly, it began when an attacker discovers a weakness in the system. In many cases, this weakness is found in something like Windows 10 kernel driver. Think of it as a small crack in the wall of security. By exploiting this crack, the attacker can slip inside the system without being noticed. These vulnerabilities often exist because software hasn't been updated or because older components are still being used. Next is gain admin right, which means once inside the system, attacker's goal is to climb the ladder of access. They start with low-level user rights, but by exploiting the vulnerability, they can escalate to administrative privilege. This is critical because admin rights give them the highest level of control. Imagine moving from being a guest in a house to suddenly having the master key. Now, they can open every door and change anything they want. Next is bypass security control. With administrator rights, attacker can bypass the very tool designed to protect the system. Antivirus software can be disabled, firewall can be turned off, and system setting can be changed. Essentially, the attacker removes the locks and alarm, leaving the system exposed. And the last step is full control of system. At this stage, the attacker has complete control. They can install malware to spy on users, steal sensitive data such as password and documents, or even lock legitimate users out of system entirely. In many cases, this leads directly to ransomware, where the attacker encrypts files and demands payment to unlock them. The organization is left powerless unless they have strong recovery measures in place. Now, let's talk about the damage this kind of attack can cause, both to the system itself and to the people who rely on it. On the system impact, attacker can install unauthorized software, which may include spyware or backdoors that allow them to return later, or they can change or delete system files, disrupting normal operation and making recovery more difficult. While for user impact, The consequences are just as serious. Attacker can steal password, document, personal data, leading to identity theft or fraud. Users lose privacy and control over their accounts, which can be extremely stressful and damaging. With that, I will now pass it on the next member who will explain the solution and strategies to prevent this kind of attack.
I will explain how Windows 10 uses authentication to defend against privilege escalation. Privilege escalation is when attackers try to gain higher access than they are supposed to, and authentication is one of the key barriers that stops them. First, Windows 10 uses Secure Boot. This ensures that only trusted signed software can load during startup. By blocking malicious programs like rootkits from hijacking the boot process, Secure Boot protects the system right from the moment it powers on. Next, Windows Hello provides biometric authentication, things like facial recognition, fingerprints, or a secure PIN. This is stronger than the traditional password because it's harder to steal or fake, and it helps prevent attacker from logging in as someone else. Finally, two-factor authentication adds an extra layer. Even if a password is stolen, attackers still need a second proof, like a code sent to your phone or a physical security key. This makes it so much harder for them to break in. These defenses are important because they stop attackers from bypassing normal user rights and gaining control of sensitive files or system settings. Together, cryptography and authentication create a layered defense that makes privilege escalation far less likely.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurdini Akila binti Aniza with the magic number 081449. So now, I will explain about how Windows 10 use firewall and intrusion detection to stop the privilege escalation attack. First, let's look at the firewall. A firewall like a barrier gatekeeper between your computer and external network. It filters all inbound and outbound traffic based on the predefined rule. Windows Defender Firewall checks every packet data that is tried to enter and leave the system. If the traffic is unauthorized or suspicious, it will block it. This reduces the attack surface available to privilege escalation attempt. For example, if malware gains access to a system and tries to connect to a remote command and control server, the firewall can block that communication. By stopping this traffic, the firewall prevents attackers from spreading further or control the system remotely. In short, the firewall defends by blocking harmful traffic before it reaches the system or leaves the system. Another important defense is the smart screen filter. Why? This is not the part of the firewall itself, but it works alongside it to protect the user from the malicious website and download. Privilege escalations often begin with the social engineering by tricking user into downloading harmful files. Smart screen evaluate the reputations of the website and files. If the file is suspicious or the site is unsafe, it warns the user before they continue. This proactive measure reduces the attacker planting exploit tool that could later be used to escalate privilege. So, Smart Screen helps stop attack at the very beginning before the malware even reaches the firewalls. So next is behavior monitoring. Windows Defender also uses behavior monitoring. This means it's just not only rely on the known malware signature, but it watches how programs behave. If a normal program suddenly tries to act like the administrator, modify system file, or disable security feature, Defender will definitely notice. These unusual actions are flagged as suspicious. Behavior monitoring is important because the attacker often uses a new or unknown technique. Even if the malware hasn't been seen before, its strange behavior can reveal it. This helps to catch privilege escalation attempt by bypass the traditional detection method. So now let's focus on the intrusion detections. An intrusion detection, or the IDS, is like a security camera inside the operating system. It monitors activity in real time and looks for the suspicious actions. For example, if low-privileged process suddenly try to access the kernel-level resource, the IDS will raise an alert. Administrator will notify and the system will block the activity immediately. By spotting them in real time, IDS prevent attacker from gaining a full control of the system. So, Windows 10 defends against privilege escalation in several ways. Firewall will block the harmful traffic. Smart Screen will warn about the risky file. Behavior monitoring will detect the unusual actions, and intrusion detection spot the suspicious activity at the real time. Together, this tool will make Windows 10 much stronger and more resilient against privilege escalation attacks. So that's all from me. Let's move to other person. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sharifah Nadia. My matric number is 081755. I will explain how Windows 10 uses access control and privilege separation to defend against privilege escalation attacks. Let's start with User Account Control or UAC. This is the feature that prompts users before allowing elevated actions like installing software or changing system settings. It acts as a barrier, preventing malware or unauthorized apps from silently gaining admin rights. For example, if a program tries to make changes, UAC will ask for permission, giving users a chance to block it. Next is the principle of least privilege. This means users and applications are only given the minimum access they need to function. So, a regular user can't modify system files, and an app like a text editor won't have access to sensitive areas. This reduces the attack surface and limits what an attacker do if they gain access. Windows also use app container sandboxing. This isolates modern apps in secure containers. So even if an app is compromised, it can affect the rest of the system. A good example is Microsoft Edge. It runs inside an app container, which helps prevent browser-based exploits from spreading. Together, these features form a layered defense. Even if an attacker manages to escalate privilege, they are still restricted by UAC, sandboxing, and least privilege rules. This limits the damage and protects system integrity. So, access control and privilege separation are essential tools in Windows 10 security strategy. They don't just block attacks, they contain them, making it harder for attackers to take full control.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hazliana Putri binti Hafizul and my matric number is 0826 and 20. So in this part, I will talk about a real-world case study on privilege escalation in Windows 10, followed by a short conclusion and prevention tips. So this case study looks at a Windows kernel vulnerability called CVE 2025-24063. It was publicly announced on 13 May 2025 and recorded in the National Vulnerability Database (NVD). The vulnerability is found in the Windows kernel and allows a local attacker to gain higher access, changing from a normal user to an administrator of a system. So the attack used a heap-based buffer overflow, which lets the attacker run malicious code with high privilege and take full control of the system. Now, we will go into impact and defense. The impact of this vulnerability is very serious. The attackers can install malware, change or delete important system files, and access sensitive user data. Windows 10 is affected because the issue happens at the kernel level which has the highest system access. So even though Windows has security features like user account control and secure boot, this protection could not stop this attack. The firewall only give partial protection as it could block outside connection but could not prevent internal privilege escalation. In conclusion, privilege escalation is a serious security threat that can fully compromise a system. This case study shows that even a popular operating system like Windows 8 can be attacked if important vulnerabilities are not fixed. To lower the risk, users and system administrators should always keep system updated, apply security patches on time, and limit user access using the principle of least privilege. Thank you for listening. That's all from me. Thank you.